Hello, everyone, and welcome to Apex Online Racing Formula One action. We are here today for round number nine, excuse me, geez, in tier number one for the PC European Leagues in Australia. I am Fizzymon, and I'll be your commentator today. And alongside me, who's been here basically every week, unlike myself, is Tipster. Tipster, how are you feeling about this week? You know, we're coming back from from Japan, now into Australia. What are your thoughts about this track coming up?
Well, it's the first time that Apex has been here in about a year, if I remember correctly, right? We started off season 20 in Australia. It's the first time we've been here in a while, so maybe some of our drivers are going to be a little bit rusty out on circuit tonight. Fast and flowing streets of Albert Park. It's going to be a big challenge, especially with that 9-10 chicane. So I'm expecting at least one safety car, maybe two tone.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption here. We'll have to wait and see what the drivers end up doing on the track. And I don't know if Spireworth will be racing today. I am unsure of that. We do have the grid currently forming, so we will let you guys know as soon as possible. He could be racing in a different tier. I don't see him on my tier 1 list. But speaking of results and the standings, Tipster, would you like to go through the Drivers' Championship after Suzuka last week?
Yes, so last week at Suzuka, championship leader Failer span out in lap 9 of the race, but managed to claw their way back to second, extending their lead at the top of the table over F1 Racer, who actually came off worse in a battle for second in the penultimate lap of the race. Lucas unfortunately retired from the race just over halfway through after a collision with Spearwhip, and Kev Genetics kept their nose clean and ultimately came home in third, allowing them to jump Tier 2 champion Matty and 6th place finisher Maestro Hoffy in the standings. Persegili, though, finishing their podium set with a win, propelling them up to 7th in the driver's standings. Galaxy's impromptu 4-stop strategy ultimately picking them up 11 points after taking the fastest lap of the race. So fairly tight from 4th down to 8th, just 14 points separating them. Then it's about 10 points back to Crew 6, who ultimately lost out due to the late safety car, bunching up the pack and making their 6 seconds of time penalties all that more costly. A late spin for Galwavan pushed them out of the points, allowing our mate to close the gap to just 1 point after they climbed through the pack to 4th. Rivershan widens the gap to Tisu after placing 8th, but a new addition to the board. HD Storm, now driving for McLaren, has 6 points to their name and jumps up to 15th, staying just ahead of Mulkian on countback.
That is our current Drivers' Championship. Thank you, Tipster, for giving us the run-through as always. Going over to the Constructors' Championship, we have McLaren extending their lead at the top, 143 points to 119, which is Haas's total. Ferrari in third right now with 96 points, only 1 point clear of Red Bull and 3 points clear of AlphaTauri, who dropped down a position and fell behind their sister team. AlphaTauri with 3 race wins on the season, unable to capitalize last week after Lucas's DNF. Mercedes jumping up a position now into 6th place with 82 points, just barely ahead of Aston Martin down in 7. Alfa Romeo jumping up a spot with 58 after securing their first race victory of the season with Persegili. Williams dropping down to 9th with 38, and Alpine still struggling to get into the double digits. Well, folks, we are on track now for some action. So we're going to go ahead and take you guys on over to the circuit right now. It is sunny skies. It's looking like what we're going to have on our screen, and it's looking like it's going to be a good one here. Got to make sure we got everything set up, track map enabled, drivers currently rolling, and we're going to have to wait and see what the drivers do decide to run with. Tipster, do you happen to have a weather update for the race?
There we go. Light cloud throughout qualifying and the race, 12% chance of rain. So looks like it's going to be a dry race throughout. Temperatures at about 28 degrees for qualifying, 30 degrees for the race. So track temps are going to be slightly higher. So those tyres are going to be degrading that a little bit more.
Thank you very much for that insight. First on track is Matty29 and his Red Bull, very closely followed by Galaxy. Galaxy, one of currently 5 drivers with a medium set of tires fitted. We'll have to wait and see how many drivers decide to do their banker lap on the medium compounded tire. Now, as for the qualifying time and what our potential pole position time, I actually do not know that, Tipster, but if I had to guess, I'm thinking we're going to get into the 119s here today, maybe into the 118s,
Okay.
but I honestly am a little clueless here as to what kind of times we're going to have. But nevertheless, Matty29 on a set of softs will be the first driver to start his hot laps for the session, so he'll give us a good banker lap, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the benchmark for the session. Really, is what Matty29 can set. A very competent driver in this league. Won Tier 2 last season, so very much kind of looking to show Failer and F1 Racer that just because I was Tier 2 last season doesn't mean that I'm out for the count this time round. As for qualifying times, from our people back at the test track, they were saying a 120.7 is kind of where we're looking. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate. Obviously, track temps and track conditions may change that. As we see Matty29 coming around into Sector 2.
We are on board with him right now as he takes us through turn number 10. Obviously, he's going to have purple first through third sectors. But we'll see. We'll get a good idea. We'll see who's more close to the benchmark. A 20.7 from 18-19. I have a feeling that it's going to be a little closer to your time, but we'll wait and see as Matty currently goes through the second DRS, or the third DRS zone on the track. Into turn 13. He's got 3 corners to go. Into the swooping right-hander, turn 14. Goes up. Got into 6th gear, short shift. Now it's heavy braking into the penultimate corner of 15th. Locks up the tires a little bit. Runs wide, carrying as much speed as possible through 16, comes out of the final corner, and it's looking like it's going to be a 21.1. So it looks like your accuracy was a lot better than mine when it came to the predictions. Galaxy, meanwhile, on the medium compounded tire, goes with the 122.6. Gerard actually pumps up into 2nd place. Lucas Eduardo retires from the session as he does have a qualifying ban to serve today. So Lucas will be starting from the back of the grid, unfortunately, for the AlphaTauri driver. Maester Hoffy's the next one to cross the line. What's he going to do on his softs? He does it to 120.7, so already they're matching your time, Tipster. So maybe we will see a 119 here.
Yeah, maybe there is room for a 119. I mean, these are opening laps. It's very early days. So we will see what happens with that. I'm just having some issues with my driver tracker, so
you're all good, no worries, because right now we're watching a little bit of F1 Racer. I don't know how he saved it through 1 and 2 and kept it valid. He absolutely ate the curb into turn number 1 and then slid through turn number 2 as Bjorn Robrak, apologies for the mispronunciation there, has retired, gone off into the gravel at turn number 1, and his session is over as well, so he'll be at the back, unfortunately, for the Williams team. Meanwhile, F1 Racer did not go purple through Sector 1, so he's doing a couple outlaps. It looks like nothing too special here today.
So just to let you know some driver changes. Jean has retired from the season, or Jean. We never really got confirmation on that. So Bjorn is actually sitting in for them full time. The driver formerly known as the Borner. Xerox. Okay. Xerox is supposedly sitting in for Nico, but we haven't actually heard from them, so they're not actually in the session right now. Davis, that you see in 17th at the moment, is sitting in for Dominic in the Alpine, and then Kaze is in for Sky Kartoffel in the Alfa Romeo.
Thank you very much for that update, Tipster. I'm still trying to get reacclaimed to it, as you can hear in the intro. Made a couple of mistakes here, but nevertheless, we will keep on it here. F1 Racer only does 121.5. Up ahead of him is the championship leader, Jan Fehler, looking to set his banker lap on a set of soft tires. It looks like the Aston Martins may be helping each other out a little bit. Krusix on an invalid lap did a 49.4 through the 2nd sector, unfortunately. But let's keep an eye on Fehler now, who's had a pretty good run of form. Able to recover to 2nd place in Suzuka last week after, like you said, getting spun around. Very impressive by our defending champion as he currently goes flying through turn number 8. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. I mean, recovering after having a spin like he did, you know, is never easy, and working your way through the field, especially at a track like Suzuka. is not an easy task, but he made it happen, and now he is not purple through Sector 2 right now. So Maestro Hoffy with a little bit of an upper hand, and Jan Fehler getting very, very loose coming out of turn number 12. That 11 through 12, so you're talking about turns 9 and 10 being the hardest part of the track. I like to think that 11 and 12 are equally as hard because it's just that much faster. As Jan Fehler somehow keeping it between the white lines. He's in the penultimate corner and now the final corner, sliding that McLaren around. What will his banker lap time be? I would have to guess it's going to be a 120. He's going to cross the line. It's a 120.897. Good enough for the front row, but not for pole position.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that actually, because it's one of those things where 11-12 runs into that third DRS straight, doesn't it? That's kind of the turn we're talking about here.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the one I always have trouble with, to be fair. I can always get it good out of 11, but I can never quite get it through 12. I can never quite get it through 12. I always end up clipping the curb a little bit too much through there. So we may see some rear ends coming out off the back of 12 if my own driving ability is anything to be judged by. So where are we? I think Fehler's coming in on their lap. Let's have
Tisu's on a good lap with the mediums right now. Sorry to cut you off, but the Alpine driver, I believe he did a 50 through the middle sector. It's going to come across the line 122.5, so maybe not as good of a lap as he would have hoped with the 22.5, only putting in P12 on the mediums. But it looked like it was a pretty clean lap, but we'll see what the Alpine driver can do going forward. But
well, this is the thing. They're the only driver to set a lap on the mediums. We don't really have an idea of representative pace. From what we've heard from people in the lab, the mediums are significantly slower through this track. So that could be a fairly good representative time. We'll have to wait and see what Tisu has in store in the next 8 minutes or so, though.
I do agree. I think the Alpine, if he can put it in 12th with that time, only 4/10 off, as cutting through that first chicane, or that chicane through the middle sector, is not exactly allowed there. You're not allowed to cut the track to gain an advantage during qualifying here, so that will surely be reported to the stewards here. Either way, a 122.5 is not a bad lap time, considering the fact that a top 10 is only a couple tenths away, and the tire compound difference surely is going to be over a second different between the drivers. But Maestro Hoffy is going to be starting his second hot lap of the session, currently sitting on pole. Let's see if the Haas driver can maybe extend his gap up at the front. As we can see, Jared currently on, or just finished the lap a little farther up the road, is up into P8 right now.
Yeah, we've also got Gelbavand and Matty29 starting their second stints as well. Gelbavand just crossing the line now.
Ooh, Matty's into the wall!
Matty29 is into the wall!
Out of turn number 4, just completely lost it, smashed into the wall. We caught it live on stream, and it is heartbreak for the Red Bull driver, whose session is over. He will stay on the board for 121.1, but unfortunately, he will start no higher than third and surely going to get pipped by people on their second and third runs. Meanwhile, Maestro Hoffy, though, is 2/10 quicker through the middle sector, but it was not purple. Is someone up ahead of him possibly going purple? We'll have to keep an eye on that one. Where's Persegili on track? Persegili's a little farther behind. Not sure who set the purple middle sector, but someone pipped Hoffy, but now Hoffy's got a very slow Ferrari in front of him. That might have held him up a little bit. He might not be too happy, but we'll see what the time is when he crosses the line. Go ahead.
So Hoffy's second sector is 0.003 of a second slower than Fehler. That is the difference here. That second sector, they are basically the same as Maestro Hoffy comes across the line in a 120.4. Keeping their pole position, extending that lead by now 4/10.
A very, very nice lap by Maestro Hoffy indeed. Maybe it could have been a little faster if the one Ferrari did get out of the way. But F1 Racer now has retired from the session. What has happened here? It looks like he lost it out of turn number 12 while pushing, so he will not start higher than 5th position. Heartbreak for the Ferrari driver, currently second in the championship, as he is out of qualifying as well. And I think your prediction of multiple safety cars may just come true with how this qualifying has gone through the first 12 minutes, still with a third of it left to go.
It does seem like our drivers have taken a little bit too much off the rear end, and it's swinging out as they come out of 12 and causing them to collide with the wall there. So something to be aware of during the race, perhaps when the cars have got a little bit more weight under them, when they're fully laden, maybe they'll be able to deal with the balance of the car a little bit better as Gelbavand improves through sector 1 into sector 2, now into the dangerous 11-12 that we've been witnessing for the past couple of laps here. 2/10 up on their previous time, so it looks like they're and they've spun it. And Gelbavand's out of the race as well, out of qualifying as well.
Gelbavand's out, and Malkian spun through 1 and 2. Meanwhile, Jan Fehler was 3/10 up through the middle sector. Is he going to improve on his final sector? Can he snag provisional pole position away? He does by a 1/10 of a second. But oh my goodness, Tipster, they're all crashing out there trying to find every 1/10 of a second. And as a result, already 5 cars retired on track.
Yes, and just goes to show that just because it is a fast and flowing circuit, Albert Park is still a street circuit, and those walls will still bite you as hard as they do in Baku. It's certainly something to see Fehler go faster on a lap where there were multiple yellow flags on the track. But we'll see what comes of that later on in the session. 4 minutes left to go, and it looks like is our mate out and setting a flying lap?
No, he's currently not.
No, he's coming in.
Yeah. I think we're in a little bit of a lull here, unless Jared is starting a lap. No, Jared is starting a flying lap right now. So keep it on the Ferrari driver who just got pipped. Tisu, across the line, goes up into 6th place. Now, also something that we missed while we were talking about the spinners, Kev Genetics up into 3rd position in his Mercedes. So not a bad drive or lap by him, putting himself up towards the front, taking advantage of the multiple cars DNFing that were around him. And hey, maybe Kev can nag a podium here today, as Jared unfortunately invalidates his lap. A little farther up the road, though, Rivershan is still on a flyer. Let's kind of see what his Sector 2 time is when he crosses the timing line. It is only a 54 thousandth of a second improvement. He's going to have to find a lot more time through Sector 3 if he wants to get out of 13th position, let alone in the top 10 here, Tipster.
Yeah, 22.06. Gelbavand on that final push lap was setting a 21.7, so a good 3/10 gap through Sector 2 alone between Rivershan and our front runners. So definitely more time to find.
So let's see, Rivershan's crossing the line. That's a half second he just got in the final sector. Holy cow. So it looks like Rivershan's previous lap was definitely a mistake in the final sector. I don't know if he's going to have enough time. I don't think he will have enough time to go again. So that's going to be his session done. One Mercedes driver in 3rd, the other only managing P12 and 2/10 out of the top 10. But that could be good, because while the mediums, like you said, have a little bit larger of a gap, the reverse strategy around this track, because you can run a medium soft and make it work, the reverse strategy is mighty powerful. So keep an eye on for drivers doing that right now. Speaking of drivers currently on laps, Kazi is currently on a lap. One of the Alfa Romeos starting his final flying run. He's slightly improved through the 1st sector. But someone we haven't talked about yet this qualifying session, he's currently only down in 13th, is Persigili, who was our winner last time out, trying to keep a good run of form going. However, if you look at his results, he's either podium or outside of the points. So Persigili looking to get on the podium, but invalidating there. So he's going to have to go again, and he's going to have enough time to do it. But the question is, does he have enough fuel here, Tipster?
Yeah, and it's a bit hit and miss out there, isn't it, really, today? It's very difficult to tell how the race is going to go from this qualifying session, especially considering we've had so many spinners so early on. Maybe our drivers trying to push as hard as possible through qualifying, maybe taking the cautionary warning to be a little bit less heavy on the throttle through the race.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. The first driver out of the top 5 on a lap right now is Kev Genetics. Kev currently at Sector 2's end right now. He's only 0.03 of a second quicker than he was on his previous best. An improvement is an improvement, but he's going to need to have more if he wants to get on the front row. We got a slow Red Bull in the final sector. That's Armate beginning his final flying lap. As everyone is currently on their final attempt for the most part, Tisu still has to get to the line, and so does Davies as well, which actually, now that I look at it, I don't know if they will have time to get to the timing line. But either way, Kev losing the rear end through 15, saving it, but that might have just ruined his lap. He probably will not improve when he crosses the start-finish line. He does. He did improve. All right, so not bad, but it could have been better, unfortunately, for Kev. But he does improve with a 120.7. Now, looking at the rest of the grid, Failer still on an outlap clock now. 15 seconds left to go. Maybe our board's a little off. I think he's not going. I think he's going across the line before it gets to 0. We might be a little off here. But meanwhile, there's Maestro.
Maestro.
Go on.
Yeah, Maestro Hoffy improving significantly through Sector 1 by just over a tenth. Manages to keep it fairly steady through Sector 2. Oh, sorry.
Failer got the checkered flag. He didn't actually have enough time to start his lap. So Hoffy here, all he has to do is beat Failer, and he's on pole position. I don't think he's going to be challenged for it.
And he's on track for it. As long as he can keep it on track and within the lines through Sector 3, the improvements he's made through Sector 1 and 2 will certainly put them towards the top. And coming across the line in a 120.3, they go pole by 0.02 of a second.
I don't believe that time will be beaten here. Galaxy currently returning to the pits. He is in 6th. Kazi moves up into 5th. Armate moves up into 7th. Pippin Crew 6. Nice lap by him. Kev Genetics, meanwhile, on a cooldown lap. Like we said with Jan Failer, he never got to the line in time, so he did not start his final flying run. Last car on track is Davies. Not sure Davies is on a lap that's going to challenge for pole position, but can he pip his teammate and put it into the top 10? Or does he hold on to pole position outside of the top 10 and get his free choice tires? We'll have to wait and see. He comes out of the final corner. He's flying up to the line. This is looking like a pretty good lap for the Alpine driver, and he's up into 7th position with a 121.2. But that is checkered flag, folks. Failer unable to get to the line in time along with Tisu. And as a result, Maestro Hoffy snags pole position with a 120.306 ahead of Jan Failer and Kev Genetics. A very eventful session that was, Tipster. And we see Maestro Hoffy on pole for the Haas team.
Yep, and looking at our driver's lounge, Matty29 saying that their headphones disconnected mid-lap there. Given that they finished in 4th, that's good going.
Well, you got to remember, Matty crashed out on his second attempt, so he did that 121.1 on his first lap. On his second attempt is when he had that crash out. So that was a phenomenal session for the Italian driver, coming in 4th. Kazi in 5th with a very strong lap there. Galaxy in 6th, Davies in 7th, Armate in 8th, Crew 6 in 9th, and his teammate Gelban rounding out the top 10 here today in Australia. The Melbourne City Street Circuit here in Australia is sponsored by Driver 61 and SimSok. Driver 61, go ahead and check them out at driver61.com because they have a coaching academy where you can not only learn to improve your driving in F1, but in other games like ACC, iRacing, and more. Go ahead and check them out and use code AOR Driver61 for 25% off a consultation session plus a free coaching session today. That is code AOR Driver61. Thank you to SimSok as well for sponsoring us here today. SimSok, the world's leader in sim racing socks. If you want to get that little bit of an extra edge on your rivals, you just need that little bit more grip on those pedals, look no further than simsok.com today. Their socks are engineered to help you maximize your racing times here. Using their gripping technology on their toes and on the heels of the socks, you are able to grip the pedals just a little bit better than you would without them, and as a result, you might find that extra missing tenth or so that you've been looking for this whole time. Check them out today at simsok.com today. Tipster, what kind of predictions do you have for us here today?
Well, with that qualifying session, I think we're going to see quite the battle between Failer and Maestro Hoffy. It's going to be interesting to see what the back of the grid opt for starting tyres. as you said, the medium soft, actually a reasonable strategy here to start out with. A lot of our front runners are obviously going to be starting on their qualifying softs. Something else to look out for is our Alfa Romeo driver in 5th, who I believe Kaze, aka Marvin, is a contender to watch, I will say.
Very interesting, but you were absolutely right, though, with the medium tires being a good starting tire here. The whole second half of the grid, who had the free tire choice, all selected the medium tires. Now, the only thing I will have to say in regard to that strategy, and it could ruin their races, is we saw how many cars crashed out in qualifying trying to push so hard. Well, when the racing gets going and everyone's going wheel to wheel, we might see a crash or two, bring out a couple safety cars, including some that might mess up that reverse strategy and give those guys starting on the softs that little bit of a strategy advantage. But at the same could be said, if there's a late safety car in the race and those guys on the medium tires who started are able to get a free pit stop at the end and stay ahead of the starters on soft. So literally anything can happen here today. We can get multiple safety cars, we can get no safety cars, and either way, I think it's going to be a very, very good race that we will have here in Melbourne, Australia. It's going to be an absolute banger here today, folks. Tipster, you were talking about Kazi, one to watch for. I think we got to watch out for Lucas down at 17th. He did not qualify because he had a qualifying ban. He served that, but last time he started towards the back, we saw it in Mexico. He worked his way up through the field and won the race. I think he's going to be one to watch out here is the Brazilian. That's for sure for me.
Yeah, well, they've certainly proved it with their prior form as well. Although they seem to be a very boom or bust driver. They're either up towards the front or they unfortunately have an incident during the race and crash out. So it could go either way for them here.
I do agree. It could go boom or bust. Strategy here is going to play a big role if there's any cautions or how many cautions there are as well. Could also determine the finishing order here. But either way, Maester Hoffy will lead the way on the grid from pole position. Jan Fehler beside him, who is just a master at his starts. Game predicting 1- and 2-stop strategies. That 2-stop strategy will not happen unless you get multiple safety cars, I'll tell you that for sure. But a 1-stop strategy, the drivers could go soft hard if they don't feel confident on the mediums. They could go soft medium, but I do expect soft medium and medium soft to be the main strategies we see here today. Now, as the drivers are lined up on the grid, the lights are on, drivers have their foot to the floor, getting ready to go, and is boogity, 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 let's go racing. Jan Fehler with a start, already up ahead alongside Hoffy and through into the race lead well before turn 1. Hoffy spinning the rear wheels a little bit too much, losing out, but can he get a run into turn number 3 on Fehler? He's right there on the rear gearbox, but he's not going to be close enough here to make the move stick. KevGenX in 3rd, Galaxy in 4th, Kazi in 5th. They're going too wide in the back here. You can see them going side by side. F1 Racer down into 12th right now. He was one of the drivers who started on the mediums. Lucas already up into 14th behind him. So these guys on the mediums need to get a move on because they realize they got some faster guys behind them coming up. As a little bit of a lunge there by Rivershan as he's trying to defend from Jared in the back. We have a yellow flag through sector 2. That is Persegili, who is round. Hard to tell if he has damage. I think he has some wing damage.
The front wing is gone, yeah.
So that is our first of, unfortunately, what I would assume, many spinners today. Persegili is going to have to pit and change that front wing here. But Jan Fehler still leading the way through Sector 3 now from Maester Hoffy, from KevGenetics, from Galaxy and Kazi back. A good start other than what happened to Persegili there. Jared also losing DRS already from Mulkian. Unsure if he has any damage. I know Jared was right behind Rivershan. Wonder if Persegili maybe stuck his nose up or whatever. Persegili going slow through the middle sector to avoid crashing out, but I think Jared has a little bit of residual damage as well. He's already 2 seconds behind the AlphaTauri up ahead. And yeah, Jared's
and the biggest winners in the early stages of the race. Galaxy up 2 places, as well as Lucas. Lucas up 4 in that first lap there.
And there, Tisu going side by side. Actually, F1 Racer dropping position. Sorry, F1 Racer's going really slow. He must have had a horrible turn number 2. He was up along Tisu, maybe lost the rear a little bit, and he's down 2 positions, dropping behind both Lucas and Rivershan. Oh, behind him, Bajorn getting very loose out of turn number 4, saving the car, but these drivers are struggling right now. It looks like F1 Racer is saying something about how he can't race. Maybe he's having some wheel problems right now. Tipster, if you may get a little bit more info on that.
Yeah, so it seems like F1 Racer is saying that Tisu is having massive desync on track, and that there's no way to actually get past them because they're basically all over the track on their end. So I don't quite know what's going to happen as a result of that. We do see a yellow flag, and that is Bjorn.
Will that be a safety car? Sorry there.
It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's going to be clear. All our drivers are clear of the incident, apart from Garrett and Persegili, who are a little bit further back. But it looks like it's just going to be recovered on the side of the track there. And indeed it is. So no safety car as of yet. As Tisu gets a 3-second penalty.
Oh, Jared into the wall as well. In the same spot of the track.
Turn 12, yeah.
Let's look at where Persegili sees. Jared's into the wall on the exit of turn number 12. No safety car being deployed or virtual safety car, even though he's kind of right off the racing line. So a very shocking thing to see the game do. Either way, Persegili is through, but Jared is out of this Grand Prix as well. That is 2 retirements already here early on as Jan Fehler leads him through the field. Prusak's up into 7th as well. He's starting to move his way up the grid after starting down in 9th. Up ahead, Matty 29 getting very racy behind Kazi as well. The Italian trying to recover after losing out 2 positions off the start. Needs to get through on the Alfa Romeo to get back up to the DRS train up ahead as Kazi picks up a time penalty. Now, we were talking about, you talked about Tisu was lagging a little bit for F1 Racer, so let's kind of keep an eye on how Lucas reacts behind the Alpine driver, who's already out of battery. He already has red light blinking on the back of his car. We'll have to see if Lucas struggles to get around him. Maybe, maybe see him maybe yielding a little bit or whatever. Because right now Tisu looks okay on our screen, but for all we know, maybe Lucas also seeing Tisu jump around everywhere. But that is unsure. Up at the front though, Maestro Hoffi is within 1/3 of a second of Jan Fehler. He's got DRS. Is he going to be close enough for the move into turn number 3? He's right there, but he's going to stay in tow and not go for a move. Kev Genetics in DRS range. We have another spinner. That is Tisu round.
Yeah, Tisu is round and into the wall, and that front wing is gone.
Well, that will make overtaking him a little easier. Unfortunate for the Alpine Garage that one of their drivers without a front wing, he's just certainly going to drop all the way to the back where Persegili is, as he's got to go around almost the whole entire lap without a front wing. Well, at least Persegili got through sector 1, so another victim. That's 4 spinners already today. He's able to keep it from retiring, but unfortunate luck for Tisu, who has just left the session and given up on the race here today. So Tisu has left, and he is gone for the day. That is our 3rd retirement of the day. His AI car will not be one to look for. But Maestro Hoffi, meanwhile, looking for a move around Jan Fehler. Another yellow flag through sector 2. That is Gelbovan, who keeps his car going, but he spun through turn 12 as well. Another victim of the fast few corners there.
Yeah, it seems like turn 12 is where we need to be keeping our eyes today, because it's catching a lot of drivers unawares.
Yeah, I really do think we need to keep an eye on turn 12. I agree. We might as well just, keep rotating the camera through the stuff. Tisu maybe disconnected there. He's back in the session, so I guess he is not retiring. So it may have just been a game crash or whatever, so hopefully he can get back in the car and keep it going here. Meanwhile, Matty going for a move on Galaxy. That is for 4th position. He needs to get a move on it because it looked like Galaxy had a whole train of cars behind him. You can see that from 4th all the way down into 9th, all in a DRS train there. Galaxy picks up a 3-second time penalty for his troubles after getting overtaken by Matty. But now the Italian, he is tasked with catching up to Kev Genetics in what is going to be a pretty big gap. My timing intervals aren't showing up at the moment. I'm sure they will reset when we cross the start-finish line. But either way, Matty now needs to run down those top 3 who have absolutely booked it and are gone from the rest of the top 10.
Galaxy about 8/10 behind Matty now, down to 6/10, and Matty themselves about 4 seconds behind the next driver.
Wow, big gap there. Mr. Huffman, meanwhile, he's just, every time I'm watching his dot, he just gets very close to Jan Fehler, but he's just sitting behind the German driver, running a nice race, letting the German pull him along, using the DRS, saving the battery. and we'll have to wait and see what the Haas driver can do. Now, on to lap number 6 out of 29. Pit window probably won't open up until closer to lap 10 because the mediums, you know, you're going to need to do about, if I remember correctly, about 16 to 19 laps on them to make it last, which means you still got to do 9 to 12 laps on those softs, you know, give or take. So we'll have to wait and see. Go on.
Well, the softs are going to start kind of going out of optimal range after this lap, probably. 6 laps seems to be where the tipping point is for the softs at Australia. Something to note, Kaze actually has some front wing damage. Although you can't see it, there is definitely some front wing damage causing issues for them there as Crew 6 goes up the inside and takes 6th position.
A very late move by our mate on Davies. He's able to make it stick. Got his elbows out there, but the Red Bull driver up into 8th position. My timing tower is back up online, so that is very good news to see as well. But yeah, very late move there. Kazi, actually, you can definitely tell he's got wing damage because look how much he's struggling through 11 and 12. He's going to lose out to a position on Arme and Davies as well into turn number 13. The Alfa Romeo driver does not have the run. He might have to come in for an early pit stop here. Got that wing change because now he's going to fall back into the clutches of Lucas Eduardo, the Brazilian, running on the medium compounded tire. F1 Racer picks up a 3-second time penalty. As yes, Kazi into the pits here. Not what the Alfa Romeo driver wanted. Not sure how he got that wing damage either. But either way, he picks up a 5-second time penalty speeding into the pit lane as well. The Alfa Romeo driver just not having a good day at all here today.
Well, there's still plenty of race to go, and we've seen it before where drivers have had a terrible start to the race, but managed to pick themselves up and, in fact, get a podium. So it's not all over just yet, as we see Kev Genetics joining the front pack. Galaxy now 5 seconds back from the leading pack.
Yeah, I noticed Galaxy was able to re-overtake Maddie about a lap or so ago. Maddie not able to really pull away. The second group just struggling really to get their foot on the ground. Crew 6 has been picking them off one by one, and he's a really fast driver as we've seen. Speaking of really fast drivers, Mr. Hoffey's closer than ever on Fela right now. He's 2 tenths behind. Will this be when the Haas driver decides to go for the lead? No, he's keeping his DRS closed. Look at that. Hoffey does not want to overtake Jan Fela at this stage. Kev Genetics used the DRS to get close, but neither driver going for a move there, Tipster.
No, and it looks like we're going to have another lap. I mean, the thing is that back-to-back DRS zone through the home straight and through out of turn 2 into turn 3 is incredibly powerful. So I can actually see our drivers holding back a bit to make sure that they get that double DRS on the next lap.
Yeah, that does make perfect sense there. You want to make sure that you get through the detection points and get DRS for the next section going forward. Either way, you can see right now Galaxy 5.3 behind. Arbate back into DRS range. He did lose it from Crew 6 in that group up ahead, but he caught back up. Meanwhile, Lucas must have made a little bit of a mistake. He's now 2.8 behind the mediums. Not really fast with the softs like we thought they would be at this stage. So that is definitely a shocker, at least for me. I'm thinking that shocked. I thought the mediums would start to come to life now in comparison to the softs, but the softs certainly holding their own at this stage of the race right now. So we'll have to wait and see as the laps go on. The softs still looking like a really quick tire. Even Gelbovan not dropping off after having that spin right there. And yeah, there was a message show. F1 Racer reported that he was having a little bit of desync with Tisu, who's currently now running at the back. Other than that, it seems like it is all okay. We haven't seen anything else. Tipster, I don't know if you've seen anything else.
It's all looked fine in my screen. I'm just looking at.
Yeah, that whole train right there from Galaxy back to Davies right now. They're just all stuck in a DRS train. The only guys able to really make overtake are Maddie and Galaxy. Although the gap from Galaxy to Kev has stabilized. It's been about 5-point middle average, you know. So right now it's 0.6. It's not dropped off like we saw it dropping off earlier on in the race. So Galaxy and Maddie when Maddie was leading, doing a good job at least to keep the tires going and to keep them lasting. But of course, that's still a 5.5 second gap that there is between him and the podium runners up ahead, which is, you know, not ideal, but it's always good to see that the gap that was been growing exponentially to start the race has completely stopped growing and maybe even pulling in a little bit here. However, he's going to lose a little bit of time to Kev through these DRS zones and where Kev can get the slipstream, but he's gaining it all back in at least the non-DRS detection points. That being said, Kev also dropping back a little bit through 11 and 12 repeatedly. We got a yellow flag through sector 1 and 2. That is Kazi, that is round. He's kept it going, but that is his left front end plate gone. That's going to have to be the Alfa Romeo driver back into the pit lane to get that wing changed once again. The Alfa Romeo driver running in the top 5 was one of your drivers to watch for, Tipster. Just not having a good day here, it seems, after getting that little bit of wing damage earlier on a couple laps ago.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it certainly looks like they've got pace out there. It's just keeping it out of the walls that seems to be the issue, and especially through 11 and 12, as we've been talking about since the start of the broadcast, really.
Oh, Maddie's round! Maddie's round, and so is Galaxy! Oh, man! Maddie losing the rear, Galaxy losing the rear, trying to keep out of Maddie. Galaxy into the wall, out of turn number 4. Maddie's able to keep it going, but Galaxy dropping way down the order. Maddie just got too hot into 4, spun the car. Galaxy spun trying to avoid him. Galaxy came off worse for wear as multiple drivers piled into him. And as a result, Davies up into 4th position. Galaxy into the wall again. Hard to tell what kind of damage he has to his Haas, but surely he's going to have a little bit of side pod damage. Meanwhile, his teammate, Mr. Hoffey, takes the lead over Jan Fehler. And things just kicked off here, Tipster. No caution thrown, no yellow flag, no safety car at the moment. Our mate, meanwhile, making the move on Krusix. Krusix might have picked up a little bit of damage there because I believe he plowed into the side of Maddie, excuse me. But that's going to help out Lucas Eduardo, who's now on the rear bumper of the Aston Martin. But holy cow, that was a big collision. And our mate's off into the track, losing the rear, and that's going to allow Krusix and Lucas through. Maddie 29 into the pits to probably change tires and repair that front wing. Most likely. I think he has wing damage. We'll have to keep an eye on the Red Bull driver. He's in the pits. He actually did not repair the wing, so that he came off very luckily there. But wow, what a run of events. Lucas up into 6th place right now, looking to get Krusix for 5th. And Davies has absolutely checked out from the Aston Martin and everyone that's behind.
Yeah, so Davies pulling the gap further ahead of Krusix here. Kev Genetics is falling out of favour with our front runners, and in fact is now a full lap ahead of Kaze. So we are getting blue flags coming up for some of our drivers.
Unfortunate for the driver, but look at this, Hoffey. Almost broke DRS on Fehler there, that last round. Hoffey's looking like the man to beat here. Fehler got the better launch off the line, which Jan Fehler is certainly known for doing. But as we got cars going side by side, that is F1 Racer going up the inside of our mate for 7th position on the run into turn number 13. Yellow flag, that is Rivershan, who is around. He is keeping it going, it looks like. It doesn't look like he has any damage, thankfully for him. Malkin, meanwhile, getting through on Gelbovan, who's into the pits? No, Gelbovan was just slow. Must have made a mistake through out of 13. He's dropped the position now. Krusix diving into the pit lane along with Davies and our mate. So the soft runners coming into the pits. Certainly Krusix was bound to come to the pits. I'm pretty sure he had a little bit of wing damage there. Yes, Krusix with the nose change right now. Our mate and Davies, just tires for them, coming out on fresh mediums. But yeah, great stuff there. And also look at this. Lucas, 12.1 seconds behind the top 3. That's going to be a very large gap he's going to have to make up on fresh softs at the end. He's going to lose a little bit more time to these runners once they pit for their mediums and are on their fresher tires. But that's a really tall order for Lucas if he wants to get on the podium.
Well, it's not only that, the 3 seconds of penalties you need to be aware of as well. As the mediums start to kind of go past their optimum point as well. We're into kind of 60% territory here for the mediums. So Some of our drivers might be looking to conserve their tyres that little bit longer so they can have a shorter stint on the softs towards the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see what happens as we progress.
Yes, anything can happen right now. Multiple spins. The fact that we have not gotten a safety car is crazy. But two of our top three into the pits, Maestro Hoffy and Kev Genex, into the pit lane for their mandatory pit stop. But Hoffy got a 5-second penalty. He sped into the pit lane, and that's huge. So Hoffy gets a speeding penalty into the pit lane. That's 5 seconds that will be served either on his next pit stop or at the end of the race. So he's got it all to do for it. He somehow has to break DRS on Failure and Kev and pull 5 seconds on him. He might have just accidentally thrown the race there. It is heartbreak for the Haas driver, who surely probably wants a safety car to come out now, so he has to serve the penalty and at least get that penalty removed. But heartbreak for the Haas driver, who's going to come out also into traffic behind Mulkian, who has not pitted. He does have 2 seconds to Kev Genetics behind, but he's going to be stuck behind the AlphaTauri driver, who's on that old set of medium tires. So only one driver left on the softs. That is Failure, as Gelvin also came to the pits for his mandatory stop there. Failure on the softs, and multiple drivers on older tires here. Lucas will take the race lead, barring an overtake from F1 racer behind once Jan Failure pits, but those drivers still have not had their mandatory pit stop. Neither has Mulkian or Rivershawn as well. So a little bit of lap traffic there. Actually, Mulkian holding up Maestro Hoffy to the point where Kev is going to be within DRS range at this rate come the start-finish line. But we have a spinner in turn number 1. Is that Kazi or is that Persegili?
I think that is Persegili.
That is Persegili.
And our camera's really not doing any justice here.
No, it is not.
But, I mean, the front wing looks intact on my screen, but we know what this game is like.
It does look intact, but hopefully it's not like the other Alfa Romeo front wing on Kazi, where we can't see the damage, but there is damage there. Either way, Jan Failure has been undercut by his rivals. Maestro Hoffy is through on Mulkian. Kev Genex still stuck behind the MRL driver, and Failure now also outside of DRS range from Kev behind. Kev going up the inside of the AlphaTauri driver, who's going to put up a fight, but Kev is through and up into 4th position on track, which is net P2, and he has to get 2/10 on Hoffy to get DRS to not allow the Haas driver to run away. And Jan Failure now has to clear this AlphaTauri driver who's going to be running long, and he's battling for a position. He knows that Failure's on a fresh set of medium tires, so no point battling too hard, but he's still going to be a roadblock nonetheless. So things heating up as it goes. Also, Mulkian might be playing a little bit of a team game here. He's not going to yield up easily. I mean, you saw him still go side by side and make Kev Genex work for the position, because frankly his teammate is in the race lead at the moment, still has to pit, but these are the guys that his teammate will be trying to battle come the end of the race if things work as well. Jan Failure, though, makes quick work of Mulkian up the inside into turn 13, and that is the McLaren driver through. He's out of DRS range. Speaking of DRS range, Kev Genetics flirting within the 1 second bubble, but the DRS detection point is into turn 14. I'm not sure if he was there, so let's watch that rear wing.
It's close.
It is close. So Maestro Hoffy.
It's not enough. So Kev Genetics setting the fastest lap of the race, but not getting that all-important DRS there, and it's going to give Maestro Hoffy a little bit of a kick up the arse to get a move on. One thing I did notice with Kev Genetics is that they are going to have to conserve fuel at some point during the race as well, as they've underfueled the car.
Interesting. That is something very well worth noting. Also, Failure made a little bit of a mistake. He is now 1.5 behind. Kev with 24% battery to his name. He's within DRS range. He's really just reeled in Hoffy, trying to drop Jan Failure. Not something you normally hear us saying. It's been actually a couple seasons since that's been said, that's for sure. But Failure falling off of the pace from Hoffy and Kev. Maybe conserving tires a little bit. But yeah, like you said, yellow on the fuel light. I wonder if if they're just naturally saving fuel, or if he does have to save fuel, was accounting for a safety car. But he has the DRS now. Maestro Hoffy, meanwhile, has 50% battery, and Jan Failure behind only has 40%. So the German driver needs to get within that DRS range, especially now with Kev in DRS range of Hoffy. So it's going to be that much harder to go for the move. A little up farther up the road, though, F1 racer within a half second, really gaining on CDR Lucas here. Will he go for the move into turn number 3?
And Tisu's lost their front wing and they're out of the race.
That's
and
a
that is the
VSC.
virtual safety car.
Jan Fehler just went purple, but now he backed off a lot. Tisu out of the session, and it's a full safety car. It's not just a virtual safety car, it is a full safety car, and that is exactly what the likes of Lucas and F1 Racer wound up at the front. Meanwhile, Macer Hoffey, you know, they're going to put on the sauce. If you're Macer Hoffey, you certainly want to pit, get that penalty removed. It's going to hurt a little bit, it's going to sting, but you need to get it removed. So that makes the most sense. Don't just let yourself be a freight train. On a fresher set of mediums when you could go for a clean set of softs. Kev and Fehler behind will jump him, but Mulkian gets a nice little cheap pit stop here. He's on an older set of tires. He's up 12 positions. Rivershed also on an old set of mediums. He's in 7th. He's going to get some positions as well out of this. So big winners out of that are the guys on the reverse strategy. Loser is the teammate of T2 Davies, who was running in net P4, now down in 8th position.
Well, it's it's quite a difficult decision that our medium runners face here, though. They've got, what is it, 13, 12 laps to do on the softs. I mean, it's doable. It's certainly doable, but they are going to be having issues towards the end of the race if they opt for it.
Also, the softs are going to be worn. Most of these drivers did 3 runs on the softs. So outside of Fehler, well, no, Fehler did go out for a 3rd run. So it's going to be a used set of softs for some of these drivers. Kevin X is going to stay out on his mediums. Fehler stays out on his mediums. Hoffey into the pits. He's going to get the penalty removed. So slightly used set of softs, not too bad. F1 Racer, if he didn't crash out in qualifying, his set of softs would be scrubbed. Davies speeds into the pit lane of the caution. That is heartbreak there. Hopefully there was no contact there. But he's going to come out on a... Davies coming out on softs. Everyone coming out on softs right now. The softs were just that much faster at the start of the race, though, so I think this is the right call if you're Lucas. Well, Lucas had to serve it. But if you're Maester Hoffey, I think this is the perfect call, and everyone down on those fresher mediums that it makes the most sense. But Krusik stays out on his mediums, interestingly enough, as he will take 5th position. He's going to put himself between Hoffey and F1 Racer, which is huge for Hoffey. Hoffey losing out because he had to serve that penalty. But now that it is cleared, all he has to do is he has to get around Krusik, which, you know, easier said than done. But if he can just stay within that 3-second range of F1 Racer and CDR Lucas while they go to hunt down Fehler and Kev, because they're going to be faster, and Hoffey should be faster as well on those fresh softs, just needs to clear Fehler and Kev when he gets up to them and stay within 3 seconds, and he could steal a race win here today. So we'll have to wait and see. The Haas driver with 2 second-place finishes, but at Singapore and Abu Dhabi, and a 4th place to his name in Saudi Arabia, looking to finally get on the top step of the podium. Honestly, he's looked like the dominant driver today. He was just sitting behind Fehler, biding his time, cleared Fehler, almost broke DRS, and then was pulling away before the caution came out. I mean, he had Kevin X, who was battery dumping to keep with them, but Hoffey was in the best position out of the top 3. And now, down in 6th place, has a little bit of work to do in that Haas F1 car.
Yeah, but as we've seen, it is doable. Jan Fehler going 14 laps on the softs, so they'll certainly make it to the end of the race. It's just going to be...
Oh, that's...
that was Persegili.
Persegili, okay. So, Persegili now... Is that 2 laps down, or just, I think that's 2 laps down for Persegili. He retires from the session. He knows his race is over, unfortunately. There is no wave around. There is no lucky dog like there is in oval racing and in other series here. And there is no, well, there's no wave around like there is in real life. So unfortunately, Persegili would not have gained any position out of this. Rather, he was going to be the biggest loser no matter what. His day is done. Not what our previous race winner wanted to have happen for him, but seeing how his results have gone the last couple weeks, he's gotten 12th, 2nd, 16th, 1st, now DNF. Maybe he can come back to Circuit of the Americas in 2 weeks' time and maybe grab a podium out of it. We'll have to wait and see.
Yep, no race for us next week as in the real world, in meat space, F1 goes to Miami. But we'll be back the week after in Austin, Texas. For Circuit of the Americas and round 10, as it looks like Kaze is not going to be able to catch up to our safety car queue by the time we go green.
Is he on the lead lap? He is on the lead lap, yeah. Yeah,
he is on the
46.
lead lap. Yeah, he's managed to stay on the lead lap and keep within contention. But it does look like we're gonna see no.
He's on the lead lap, but he's got those extra penalties, so it's not going to be easy for him to catch back up. Safety car still out on track because Kaze has not caught up, so it's going to allow him to catch up. We're going to have one more lap under the safety car, and so at the end of lap 19, we will go green. We'll have 10 laps to go of this Grand Prix.
Speaking of safety cars, by the way, we had a very weird incident that happened last week with the safety car, where it went green. It looked like it was going to pull into the pits, and then all of a sudden, the caution lights came back on. And we worked out what it was. There was a slight collision towards the back of the pack, which caused the safety car to stay out for another 2 laps. So just be aware of that.
Interesting. Yeah, so hopefully we get no collisions here. It's kind of like they're waving off the restart, essentially. That's all.
Yeah. So safety car probably coming in at the end of lap 19, which means we're going to go green on lap 20. So we're not going to see any DRS until lap 22.
It's going to be a matter of slightly used mediums, which is these fresh, soft tires that, you know, just probably have like 5-6% wear on them at this stage once we go green. But one other thing to note, Gelbman's also on medium, so he stayed out and got the track position because he dropped down a little bit after that spin. But he's going to be another roadblock for Rivershawn, Davies, and everyone else behind. So some of these drivers who were running about P5 like that, remember that train of cars that was running fifth? Maddie, Davies, Armate, Galaxy, and Gelvon at one point with Prix there as well. They're stuck behind that Aston Martin on the old tires. The Aston Martins both opting to stay out on the mediums and hoping to make it work. Safety car in this lap here. Like you said, we'll have 10 green flag racing laps. Lap 22, the DRS will be enabled. Question is, can these fresh softs, how much pace advantage will they have over these mediums? I would expect it's going to be mighty because we saw, as we talked about in qualifying, there is a decent pace difference between mediums and the softs. And when you compare fresh sets, surely Lucas and F1 Racer do have those penalties, unlike some of their rivals around them. Need to get a move on.
Yeah, it looked like it was about a second difference per lap between the 2 compounds. Fresh sets, obviously. So fresh softs against slightly worn mediums, you're going to see a pace difference about 1.2 seconds, we reckon. Yeah. So it's going to all be about track position as Kev Genetics puts pedal to the floor, and we go green here at Melbourne.
Oh, look at this. Lucas got an absolute run on Failer. Krusix, meanwhile, trying to get a move on F1 Racer. Lucas backing out of it into turn number 1. Krusix also backing out of his move on F1 Racer. Davies picks up another time penalty. That is just heart right there. But look at this. Krusix pressuring F1 Racer. The Ferrari driver having to defend from the driver on 8-lap old mediums. How about that? But Lucas up the inside into turn number 4 on Jan Failer. He's trying to pick off another driver. Kev Genetics is gone at the front, and Lucas is through. Up into second position. F1 Racer, meanwhile, also trying to pick off his championship rival, who he sees as a sitting duck. If he can clear him, he might be able to gain a little bit, close that 45-point gap up on his fellow countrymen up ahead. He's going to try to break late, go around the outside, turn number 9, which is the inside for 10. F1 Racer forced onto the green, but he is through, but they're going to go 3 wide. Krusix on his medium, sticking up the inside. Krusix makes the double overtake. Oh, here comes Hoffy, and Hoffy squeezes F1 Racer and Failer a little bit into the wall there. That was a little naughty by the Haas driver, but he is through. Failer dropping down the order like crazy. He's down into 6, now having to defend from, it looks like Gelbman, who's trying to make a move on Malkian. Failer might have a little bit of damage, same with F1 Racer after that move by Hoffy, who may have just come a little too far to the right. We'd have to watch the replay on that one, but now Hoffy, who, like we said, he needs to keep within 3 seconds of Lucas, who is now 2.5 ahead of him as it stands, but Lucas still has to clear. Captain X Krusix picks up another time penalty. We're going to keep an eye here on Hoffy. Actually, let's keep an eye on Lucas as well, who's going to look for the move on Kev, who's defending for the race lead here from a hard-charging AlphaTauri from behind, who's won multiple races this season. Meanwhile, Hoffy still behind Krusix here. It looks like he's going to need that DRS help with F1 Racer behind him as well. Rivershan and Davies going side by side. This is battle for the last points paying position. Davies is through, but Davies also has a lot more time penalties than Rivershan behind Tipster. What a restart that was.
Indeed, and looking towards the front, Kev Genetics and Lucas. Lucas burning ERS to try and overtake Kev Genetics as they come to the first DRS detection zone here. And Lucas manages to pull ahead, which means Kev Genetics is going to have DRS coming out of 10. Oh, sorry, no. They're not going to, because we've had a safety car. Lucas getting past on ERS alone and is down to about a quarter of their battery right now. Kev Genetics has enough in reserve if they want to try and pull the place back. But honestly, if I'm Kev here, I'm probably going to sit pretty for a lap.
No, you got to burn the battery, keep within DRS range, because the DRS is enabled now as they cross the finish line. The detection point is where you just mentioned previously. It's on that back straight. He needs to not lose 3/10 by the time they get onto the run into turn number 11. He's already a second adrift as Hoffy picks up a very costly 3-second time penalty. That just evens the field between him, Lucas, and F1 Racer. We got a yellow flag. Who is that is around? That is Gelbevand, who is around on his mediums. Keeps it going, no damage to his car, but heartbreak for the Aston Martin driver. Meanwhile, his teammate holding up Hoffing nicely, who has that 3-second time penalty, is on level peggings as the drivers around him. But Kev Genetics, it's what can he do in comparison to Lucas. He's out of DRS range, but if he can somehow keep it within another 1.8, will keep himself from losing 1.8 seconds to the driver on fresh softs, maybe he can win this race. But it's a very tall order there as Hoffy looking to get a run on Krusix now. He's going to have DRS out of turn number 12. And that's going to be his best chance. He needs to clear this Aston Martin driver now to get a shot at beating Kev Genetics. Krusix has 6 seconds of time penalties. DRS wide open. Hoffy goes around the outside. Krusix defending the inside line. Hoffy breaks very late, but so does Krusix, who gets squeezed to the apex, but beautifully done by Hoffy. Goes around the outside, and he is up into third place now. Next up, F1 Racer looking to make a move on Krusix, pushing him through the penultimate corner now. The Ferrari looking to show a little bit more pace. He needs to get through Krusix, because once he saw that 3-second time penalty to Hoffy's name, all of a sudden he has a shot once again at a podium position. He's going to use his battery to try to pull himself alongside. They're side by side through 1. It's not really enough room there. He's going to have to go for the move into 3. He's got a little bit better tire run out of turn number 2. They're still bumper to bumper. He goes up the inside into 4, or into 3, excuse me. They're banging side by side wheels. Krusix is going to have the inside through 4, but F1 Racer with a much bigger tire advantage swoops around the outside and is through on Krusix. But unfortunately, it took him a couple too many corners, as now he's 1.2 seconds behind his rival up ahead.
Meanwhile, at the back, Failer has fallen down the order to 13th, and it's quite the battle for the last points-paying position in 10th. We had a train of about 5 or 6 cars, sometimes going 3 wide through some of the corners to try and get that final points-paying position, currently held by our mate, with Galaxy just 4 tenths behind as the field starts to spread out a little bit more. What do we think is happening with Failer? Is it just the old mediums, or do we think they do have some damage there?
100% going to have a little bit of damage. See if we get a good view of the right side of that car, because F1 Racer was in the middle of the sandwich. Failer was alongside the wall. He might have some side pod damage, so let's keep an eye on that right side of his car. Maybe there's a little bit of scuff marks there, but I'm thinking surely he's got some damage to the car. He's way off the pace. You know, because look at what Krusix's doing up towards the front, and Kev Genetics. They're doing just fine. But Failer surely has damage to his... I think, yeah, he's got damage on... It looks like the left side of his floor is not straight. It's bent in. So he has some floor damage to that car, and that is what is slowing up. Surely, because, I mean, yeah, that left side of that... Yeah, his left side floor is completely bent out of shape. Go on, Tipster.
Well, speaking of up towards the front, it's Failer and Hoffy... not Failer. F1 Racer and Hoffy kind of starting to keep an eye on that gap for third place, and it looks like F1 Racer is starting to drop back, so Maestro Hoffy just burning ERS to make sure they keep within DRS range of Kev Genetics. They come through the DRS detection zone into 11 and 12, and DRS is live. The rear wing is wide open, and it's a very easy pass for Hoffy into second.
Very easy up in a second. Now his only hope, he's got to somehow get 3 seconds on Lucas in 5 laps, which is a very tall order considering the pace of the AlphaTauri driver up ahead. Hoffy has looked like the man to beat, but I mentioned before the race started that Lucas, you got to watch out for him. Last time he started at the back, he was able to work his race beautifully. Now, of course, he had a little bit of help. He had the safety car, which arguably has given him the win here, barring a 3-second time penalty to his name. So he still has to be careful. He needs to keep it within the lines. And Tipster, what kind of warning situation is Lucas on? I want to knock on wood right now, but he's going because he's going for his 4th victory of the season, the most of any other drivers. But what is this warning situation looking like? Because could that cost him some lap time if he's trying to, you know, manage himself from getting just 1 extra warning?
So he's on his 4th warning right now. Can afford 1 more, but 2 more would obviously be heartbreak.
Yes, they would indeed. Now look at this, Captain X barely keeping with the DRS range. Coffee though, is close up half a second in half a lap. He's flying. The Haas driver is smelling blood.
In fact, last time round, a full 7/10 faster than Lucas, so is starting to close that gap now that they've got through the traffic. It's just a case of can they get within striking distance by the end of the race. If they keep this pace up, then they certainly can.
But here's another thing to look out for. Kev Genetics doesn't have a time penalty. He's flirting with DRS range on Hoffy. Now, he's got F1 Racer. He doesn't have DRS right now. So he's going to have F1 Racer all over him. But Kev, don't sleep on him. He's currently net P2 on track. Because there's no point in battling F1 Racer here. Let F1 Racer pull you back up to Hoffy and use the penalties that they have to jump him back over. But Hoffy has a wee bit more battery than Lucas, but not by much. So both drivers pushing it to the limit. Hoffy currently the faster of the 2, but with 3.5 laps to go, time is running out if he wants to have a shot of this victory. But again, like I said, Kev Genetics 2 seconds behind Hoffy right now. A lot to play for. Anything can happen here because one mistake, you know, you go a little wide, get a couple extra warnings, and all of a sudden you're going to have another time penalty and he's going to ruin the race.
Yeah, Hoffy starting to close that gap from 3 seconds. Almost down to 2 now with 3 and a bit laps to go. So it is going to be tight if they keep closing at this pace. As Kaze picks up another 3-second time penalty for their troubles. But now, if you're Hoffy, you've got F1 Racer behind you, who, safe to say, is in a very similar situation. So you are pretty much battling them on track. You're not counting on penalties at all. F1 Racer, slightly slower. Slightly faster that time round. Only a few hundredths, though. So it looks like the gap between 2nd and 3rd is staying about the same as Lucas comes into vision for Maestro Hoffy. And if that's going to... If that's going to do anything, that's going to push Maestro Hoffy to go harder. Unfortunately, they haven't really got much battery to do it with. And Lucas also burning through battery, starting to regen by the look of it, preparing for the situation that that Hoffy does close the gap on them to the point where DRS is a possibility. Oh,
Krusix made a mistake. He's missing his right side end plate. He was holding up Malkian. You know, I don't know if there's any contact there if Krusix just got himself into the wall. Nevertheless, I was going to mention Malkian is having a career day right now. So not only is his teammate winning the race, but Malkian's best finish on the season was 8th. He was running 6th position, now up into 5th after Krusix dropping down the order. Malkian, on a phenomenal drive here, started at the back. You know, remember, he started on the final row with his teammate, up 13 positions. So how about that drive by both AlphaTauri drivers running from the back of the grid, the last row, up into 1st and 5th, respectively. Also, another thing to note, Kev Genetics is outside of 3 seconds of Hoffy. So Kev, right now, slipping down the order. He needs to stay within 3 seconds of F1 Racer to hang on and get a podium here. He's driven an absolutely phenomenal race, but both him and F1 Racer out of battery. The blinking red lights behind him, so we'll have to wait and see how this last lap and a half pays out. Hoffy, meanwhile, only 1.7 seconds behind Lucas, but that's not close enough. He needs to somehow find 7/10 of a second this lap around to get DRS for the final lap, but he's only going to have 4 more DRS zones, the first of which is the detection point coming up here, and the second of which is going into 14. That double detection point is going to be crucial, but getting 6/10 of a lap in a sector is almost impossible. Can Hoffy do it?
Well, they managed to find 4/10 last lap. Can they... they need to find 6/10 before they hit that detection zone this time round. They are still gaining, and not through burning battery. It looks like they just took those last couple of corners a little bit better than Lucas Eduardo, and are now down to 1.4 seconds the gap. So it could be a really tight battle to the finish here.
It looking is white flag sponsored by SimSok Flies. Lucas Eduardo hanging on to the lead by 1.3 seconds. Hoffy's only got 1 more DRS zone and the run to the line to have a shot at winning. Eduardo has his battery light blinking. Hoffy has a little bit left. He's trying to see if he can use that wee bit of extra battery to get him within DRS zone. He's going to really have 1 more overtaking opportunity into turn number 13, but it's not going to be possible without DRS. And you can see there Lucas got 2/10 on him through turns number 6 and 7. So it's going to be a miracle if Hoffy wants to get his first win. It's looking like his his 3rd second place finish of this season, which is not a bad finish, but of course you gotta be frustrated not getting the win.
Well, that's a yellow flag. Yeah, that's Kazi. Which, I mean, with their penalties, puts them outside of the points. Biggest race on circuit right now is Galaxy on Rivershan. The gap now down to just 3/10 between the two of them as they come into DRS, and similar penalties for both of them. So this is for 8th place here as they come into the last couple of turns. Up towards the front though, Lucas comes across the line, takes the win. Maestro Hoffy behind in 2nd, and F1 Racer taking the final spot on the podium. Kev Genetics, though, after penalties, snatching it from them.
Yeah, a phenomenal drive there by Lucas. Definitely got helped out by the safety car, but he wins here in Australia. Maestro Hoffy, unfortunately, getting screwed over by the safety car. Still able to manage a 2nd place finish. Kev able to come home without getting penalties on the podium. So great job by the Mercedes driver, who 2 podiums back-to-back after not having any further season. Great job by the Mercedes driver. Malkian with the career best day in 5th position. 90.29 into 6th. Able to recover after that huge spin earlier on with him in Galaxy. Speaking of Galaxy, finished 9th. Armate 7th, so the Red Bull 6th and 7th. Rivershan at 8th, so the Mercedes also having a good day. And the Haas driver's doing good as well with a 2nd and 9th place finish. So a couple teams having good days, other teams not having great days as well. The Haas team is going to gain a lot of points on the McLarens, as I believe Jan Fehler did come home in 10th there. But there you have it.
Looks
Lucas
like
on top.
Yeah. Lucas taking the trophy for, I think is that their 4th win?
That is indeed.
So very much cementing their place as a championship contender alongside Maestro Hoffy, who takes the silver medal, and Kev Genetics on the bronze podium there. Fehler just inside the points as we look at the results now.
Lucas on top for his 4th race victory of the season. He's going to gain 24 points on Jan Fehler, but that'll still put him 26 points behind our championship leader. F1 Racer, who was running 2nd in the Drivers' Championship, does drop down to 3rd after only getting 12 points here today. 11 on his rival. But we're going to go ahead and quickly take a look at the whole results and then get the race director for anyone who needs it for post-race penalty removals, as there was a lot of penalties for track limits. So unfortunate to see, but nevertheless, it is what happens. Australia is a brutal track, multiple retirements, multiple victims of the walls around here, as like you said, Tipster, it is a street circuit, and at the end of the day, street circuits do love to bite.
Indeed they do, and I mean, fortunately, only 3 drivers becoming victim there, but certainly having an impact on some people's races.
Yep, indeed. The safety car definitely costly for some drivers, helped out the others, helped out Lucas, and helped out some of these other drivers. Actually, it helped out Kev. Kev able to come home in third. He was running in second place, still able to have a good result, but you know it is unfortunate. I do think that safety car probably helped Toffee because pulling 5 seconds on Kev, who was driving really quickly, and pulling 5 seconds on Jan Failer is easier said than done. So hard to say how it would have played out. But either way, we're going to go ahead, bring him on into the booth. Finish second place, was looking like the fastest car all day, but just wasn't able to get there in the end. Hoffy, how are you feeling after that drive? Not the result you probably wanted, but second place is still a very, very good result.
Feeling all right. I mean, of course, when you have that kind of a pace, especially at the end of the race in the comparison with Lucas, of course you want to win the race, but yeah, just unfortunate events caused Lucas to just basically get the most perfect pit stop ever, and then yeah, you are just unable to do something. But yeah, overall, just a great weekend from my side. I mean, pace was good, and that's all what matters sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you looked like the driver to beat out there on track today. It was just unfortunate how it played out. But we were looking at it. You got the speeding and the pit lane penalty. What happened there? Did you brake too late, or was it a game glitch? What happened?
I don't know. When I already practiced for the track, I always struggled with the pit lane because in Australia it's 37 kph instead of what is it 50 or 80 on the other tracks, and I just always did it wrong. And then of course I was a bit filled with adrenaline because I just overtook Failer, and then I wanted to get it as quickly as done as possible. But yeah, then just dumb mistake.
I mean, it does happen to the best of us, but that safety car allowed you to get it removed at least. So unfortunate that it happened, but you still drove a really good race. Tipster, you got any questions for our second place finisher here today? Tipster? Well, I will add another thing.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. All right, what do you got for
I
us?
didn't. Yeah, just to touch on the safety car, really. What was going through your head when that safety car came out?
Um, it was like two-sided. One on the one hand, of course, it was very unfortunate because F1 racer and Lucas just had the most free pit stop ever, and I lost positions to them. But then on the other hand, it was the perfect opportunity for me to get the 5-second penalty removed. So yeah, a bit of a mixed feeling, but in the end, I think it definitely paid off for me.
It's still okay. It still worked out for you. You were able to come home in second at the least. Next week, or sorry, 2 weeks from now, we have Circuit of the Americas coming up. How are you feeling about that track, and do you think you can keep this momentum going? Maybe get to that top step of the podium?
Uh, I don't know really. Australia, I think, was one of my best tracks, if not even my best track. I absolutely love Australia, and just going into the weekend and going into the practice, I just immediately had pace. My time trial laps were incredible in comparison to other tracks. But then USA, historically speaking, if you can say so, is always one of my worst tracks. Like with China, maybe it's I just I'm struggling so much there. So yeah, when I practiced for a day, I think there, and it looked okay, but just not very convincing, like Australia. So yeah, just I don't know.
I guess we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. Hey, you drove a phenomenal race. You were looking like the fastest car all day. Unfortunate that it did not work out for you, but second place is definitely something to be proud of. Also, the one thing to note is that McLaren only scored 1 point today, while the Haas team had you coming home with 18 points and your teammate Galaxy coming home with another couple at the back. So you guys are, while the Drivers' Championship may be a little bit out of reach, the Constructors is certainly on for you. So going forward, you guys got to look forward to that. You think you're a little excited to put that battle back on, or like you said, we'll see how it goes. What are your thoughts?
You mean like on with the championship or?
Yeah, so the Constructors' Championship, if Tipster, correct me if I'm wrong, going into the race, there was about a 25-point gap. And
Uh,
now, following this race, there is a 4 point gap provisionally. So going forward, while McLaren has the edge with the 2 race victories, you are only 4 points behind the McLaren team for you Haas drivers. So do you think you guys can keep that battle back on, or do you think, like you said, with Circuit of the Americas coming up, you think it's going to be a little trickier with some of these tracks coming up?
No, I think we can hold up our fight. Of course, for our drivers, it sounds arrogant, but team championship is not that important. Of course, it's nice to win that, but yeah, I think we all want to be at the front in the drivers championship. But yeah, I think I don't know what's the rest of the calendar. I think with the exception of USA, yeah, with the exception of USA, Zandvoort is coming up, Canada, Brazil, all tracks I really enjoy, and also my teammate as well. I think so. Yeah, definitely a chance there to do something.
I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes. I mean, you're right. Yep, drivers championship is always going to be the more important one, that's for sure. But in the drivers, you are up into 4th position, jumping Kev Genetics, and you're starting to reel in F1 Racer a little bit. But easier said than done, of course, as you saw today. So congrats on the drive. You drove a phenomenal race. Hopefully, we can see you finally get on the top step in these coming weeks, and enjoy the break week. Don't enjoy it too much because we'll be back out on track in 2 weeks, and hopefully we can see you carry that momentum that you brought here today.
Yeah, let's hope so. And bye bye.
Yep. Cheers, mate. So that was Maestro Hoffy Tipster. I think he drove a phenomenal race. Definitely one of the best drivers on track. Unfortunate to see how it played out. Now, one thing you were bringing up is you're asking what happened to Jan Fehler, right?
yeah, I'm intrigued to hear their side of the story because it did look like they had some form of damage on the car. Or it could have just been that the mediums had hit that point in their life where they were starting to come away. But I guess we'll find out from the man themselves.
Yes, we will indeed. We'll find out. Jan Fehler, what happened there after that safety car restart? Did you pick up a little bit of floor damage or something? Like, what happened there? Because you were looking like you were having such a strong race, and then a little bit of contact there, and all of a sudden it came all undone.
Yeah, from wing damage, right hand end plate was damaged. Not a lot actually, even on the MFD. You can barely see the damage, but as you can tell, I definitely felt it a lot of understeer. When we were 3 wide, and I guess Master Hoffy underestimated the situation and didn't think that I was still there. Maybe thought that both F1 Racer and him passed me already, even though we were still 3 wide. And actually, at that point, I was already lifting because I saw there's cars everywhere. That I knew that F1 Racer probably had an illegal overtake on me because he went around outside off track, and the game would give you an illegal overtake with that. So as soon as I was, because we lost all the momentum through that corner, and I think it was Kruzix who went past then. We already had cars all over the place, so I decided, because these guys were on fresh softs anyways, and had time penalties, most of them. I was already deciding, okay, so Chris will have to lift, so I'll just go flat out as long as I can, so I get ahead of him, so the game doesn't, does revert his illegal overtake, and as soon as I'm ahead and there's enough space for me to do so, I will lift off because there's cars everywhere. And I saw Maestro Hoffy coming as well in my mirrors, or was it on the red arrows? I don't know. I knew there was cars everywhere on my inside. So I thought, okay, I'll just lift off, let them go, fair enough, and then we can race till the end, because maybe the mediums will be fine, or will be better at the end of the race than those fresh softs. I had no idea. I was just hoping that. But yeah, and at that moment with that damage, of course, the race was over. I mean, I still got the point. So staying out and not pitting out of frustration and going for fastest lap or something was the right decision. But it's obviously very frustrating when these things just all go against you and there's nothing really you can do about it.
Yeah, we can believe it. It definitely was not the end you wanted, but let's look at it a little bit of better time. Before that pit stop, or before the caution and before you pitted, you were driving, Hoffy, and Kev Janex were pulling away. What was going through your head whenever you looked in the mirror and you saw Hoffy kept closing his rear wing? Did you think, all right, maybe I should start conserving battery, or were you just not focused on that and just trying to keep him behind? What was the strategy, at least in the first part of the race?
Um, I was mostly scared at the first part of the race because I had F1 racer reporting a desync with Tisu, and because the field was so spread already in the first stint, and in my chats on Twitch also people said, that there was a collision and there was an accident and whatnot. I was very scared that there's actually a massive desync issue in the lobby, and the drivers are just not reporting it because they just don't want to pause the game, because obviously that's a disadvantage. You lose some time. So I was quite afraid that we have a big issue here. But then as time went on, my chat also told me, actually it seems to be fine. It's good. Only Chris has that one issue, and once Tiso obviously retired, that was gone as well, luckily. So yeah, well, I was basically more focused on that. I'm not saying that's why I was lacking pace or anything. That's definitely not the case. I wouldn't have been any quicker had that not happened. But that was basically my main focus. I wasn't really thinking about strategy too much. Obviously, I was trying to do that as well, seeing when to pit and whether I want to undercut these guys, to overcut these guys, where we would come out with the traffic and everything. That was still on my mind, of course. But I was not really bothering to think whether it's better to stay ahead of Maestro or even Kev, because obviously he was staying with us as well, or not, or let them go and drive the train. Yeah, there was no thought process of that. I realized Maestro wouldn't really want to overtake me there. As you said, he closed the DRS early multiple times and just started back in, where he easily could have gone for a move. So yeah.
Well, not the finish you wanted, but it was still, it was a good drive up until the accident. Tipster, you got any other questions you would like to ask Jan Failer here? After our championship leader, still, by the way, by a margin.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at the bigger picture, 4 races to go. You're leading the championship by 26 points. Do you think it's going to be a close run thing between you and Lucas, considering Lucas is starting to close that gap, or do you think you're going to run away with it in the last 4 races?
I don't know. I think, yeah, I think today again just showed how you cannot predict the results beforehand, because it seems to be the case that we just get a safety car at some point in every race, and it's just a matter of when it comes out, and that, as it did today, will then decide the outcome of the race. Obviously, you have incidents during the race that can happen, like the one that happened to me today. You never can rule that out, but without that, it's all about the safety cars and who's on what strategy, who gets it right there. So as long as I keep scoring points, I think I'm confident to carry that advantage that I have over the line. But I know that races like today can appear basically every week. I mean, last year we had a similar situation where I was thinking about, okay, if I get this result and this result, then I could be champion with 2 races to go. Then we had Silverstone, where I had that major brain F, and then China, where I got a penalty because I dared to accelerate out of hairpin under virtual safety cars, which also cost me a lot of points. And all of a sudden, you're sitting there going, "Oh, geez, okay, we might be going all the way." So it's unpredictable. That as long as things stay relatively normal, I'd say, carefully, then I think I should be all right until the end. But I think it's definitely going to be close.
I'm touching all the wood on your behalf right now. But 4 races to go. We're back at Austin in 2 weeks. You got a week to recoup, watch the Miami GP, and get back in the driving seat in 2 weeks' time. I think that's everything from me. Thank you very much for coming on and talking to us.
Hey, welcome.
Yeah, just we'll see you come back stronger than ever. I mean, we've seen you do it in the past. Not your best finish, of course, today, but the last time you had your worst finishes of the season, which is 2 6th-place finishes at Abu Dhabi and 1 at Hungary. You finished on the podium the week after them, so I'm sure you'll come back stronger than ever and be just as feisty as you were today. So we look forward to seeing you back in 2 weeks. Failer, you of course providing all the action here, nonetheless, and we'll see you come back stronger than ever when we get to Circuit of the Americas in 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So that was our final interview of the day. Tipster, any other closing remarks you'd like to go over with our viewers?
Oh, I mean, what a race, eh? Lucas certainly showing that they're still on form, certainly showing that they can still come out on top. Maestro Hoffi also putting in a very good performance today, taking the extra point for fastest lap of the race as well, and launching themselves into 4th place. So it looks like we're going to have a battle for the top spot, a three-way battle, in fact, for the top spot between Fela, Lucas, and F1 Racer. So don't miss out. The next 4 races are going to be incredibly decisive.
Yes, they are indeed. It's going to be a lot of fun once we come back in 2 weeks' time. Go to Circuit of the Americas, followed by Zandvoort, Canada, and Brazil. So 3 Western Hemisphere races to go. You got my home race. You're going to go back to the Netherlands, and then we go to Canada, which, it's funny. You mentioned before the race, we haven't been to Australia in a long time. We actually have not been to Australia since the start of Season 20. So that was the first AOR race in Australia since the fall, or I believe it was September of 2020. So it's been a long time since we had a race in Australia, which would explain some of the mistakes. But Canada has also not been raced in a similar length, not as far back, but I believe it's been since maybe early 2021. So that should be another track that should provide a lot of excitement as well.
It's certainly been a while, and Zandvoort, it's a very heavily banked track. A lot of room for error, both in Canada and Zandvoort. So, very unpredictable races coming.
Yes, and it will be a lot of fun. And once again, this has been another feature presentation of Apex Online Racing Formula 1 Action, sponsored by SimSok and Driver61. Check them out today. And we will be back, like we said, in 2 weeks' time for the U.S. Grand Prix after we all watch the Miami Grand Prix for the first time next weekend. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time here in Apex Online Racing.
Yeah. Later and drive safe.